Noob School.
All right, welcome back to Noob School, episode 140, with my good friend John McDonald. Welcome back, John.
Thank you for having me.
You were here a year ago?
I want to say it was at least a year ago.
John and I met in a sales training class probably 4 or 5 years ago. I don't know.
John's probably 10.
10 years ago?
He's probably 10 years ago. Yeah.
And John was just not too long out of the Navy then, and was really getting both barrels of sales training. And we got to be friends, and he got to be friends with a lot of people in that class. We used to go on walks, and talk about life.
I miss the walks.
Yeah, the walks are good. But today, John's been here once before and answered all the standard sales stuff. I thought today we'd delve into kind of his, kind of how he has built his life on purpose. I would say, John, and we'll talk more about it, but, he could easily, like all of us could, he could find something to complain about or, I wish this, I wish that. But John just figured, here I am. What can I do from here to get to there? And he's just done that over and over again in his life. And at this very moment, he's in a pretty darn good place, I would say.
I feel like it.
That's good. So tell us where you started. Where did you grow up?
I grew up outside of Tampa, Florida.
Tampa.
And I went to high school, and immediately after graduating, I joined the Navy.
And why did you do that?
I needed direction. I didn't want to stay home, and the crowd was not great, and I didn't know what college was about. I didn't have great grades. I didn't take it seriously.
Yeah.
But I knew I didn't want to live in that trailer anymore.
So you knew, A, you didn't want to stay there, and B, you just had a intuition that it wasn't going to go well.
There's something better.
Yeah.
There's something better.
So the Navy, it's certainly something completely different, right? I mean, you're out.
Yeah. It's a big world of difference.
Did you go to Great Lakes?
I went to Great Lakes.
Yeah.
9 weeks.
And that's where everyone goes to get in the Navy as a non-officer, right?
To get boot camp.
Yeah, my son Jack went through there.
SEAL, right?
Yeah. And so tell us about some of the places you saw in the Navy.
Well, first I'll tell you that I went to boot camp, then I went to Avionics school about 9 months. That was in Pensacola, Florida. That was nice and fun, but it was actual intense learning for me because I didn't take high school seriously. So now I'm having tests on a weekly basis. And I have to pass.
Yeah.
And I did pass, and then I went to Oceana in Virginia, Norfolk. That was about another year, and then I ended up on an aircraft carrier, the Dwight D. Eisenhower, and worked on avionics.
What are those? What's the avionics? I don't even know.
Avionics is electronics on an aircraft, so F-18s, SH-60s, radar jamming is what I specialized in.
So it's to do with air. Is that what that means?
Avionics. Yeah, I would say aviation electronics.
Aviation.
We can probably,
Hey, I majored in political science, man. I didn't get any actual training like you did. It's so funny. I went to a college, a good college.
Yeah.
I didn't learn a damn thing.
When you say good college,
it's just Citadel's a good college. I mean, it's supposed to be a good college. You have professors and they teach you things and all. But I studied something that had nothing to do with anything, like political science, right? I didn't study avionics. Didn't know what it means.
Yeah.
Something that you can actually do and be helpful.
I love this topic. I hope we can tangent a little bit because my daughter is graduating in about a month.
Yeah.
We have visited 13 colleges.
Yeah.
We've got a spreadsheet, pie chart, what she likes, what she doesn't. And I'm so ignorant to college, I didn't go. And so what in college will help you with your sales career? What in Citadel helped you with your sales career?
People could certainly argue that if you want to go into sales, that just, 4 years of being kind of on your own and dealing with life and, trying to get into this class versus that class and talking your professor into it and, trying to worm your way into a certain sorority there's stuff I'm sure you have to do to persuade people to do things.
Yeah.
But having said that, I wouldn't go to college for sales. right? If I really wanted to learn sales, I
Yes.
would go to specific schools to
You would.
learn sales. Yeah,
You would.
yeah. Whatever it is you want to learn to do in your future life, I would go to that school. Now, if you want to be a doctor, I think you've got to go to college and
An
get
attorney,
a
a doctor,
There's certain
specialized.
things that you have to check that box.
That's
and you
1% of 18-year-olds that know this.
You have to major in law or biology or
Yeah.
engineering or whatever. Those are specific things you're learning for your profession.
That makes sense to me.
Right, architecture, right?
Sure.
But not sales, not entrepreneurism.
Not at all.
No.
But there's not a lot of 18-year-olds that say, hey, I want to be in sales. And so when I'm looking at the price of these colleges and what my daughter wants to specialize in psychology and whatnot, I'm looking at this group of, all right, what are the stats? Is it 80% of folks don't use their college degree?
But I think psychology is one of those where
It is.
you get a good.
It really is.
Yeah.
And then in this whole process, I'm thinking to myself, all right, I didn't go to college, but I've got discipline. Now, did the Navy, I get this a lot because I'm also a bodybuilder.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of what I do is based on discipline. They say, oh, well, that's easy for you because you were in the military.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say something that might be a little controversial, and that is if you graduate college from a tough college, that takes more discipline than being in the military. Here's why. It blows my mind when I say
Yeah,
it because if I don't show up to muster in the morning,
Yeah.
my consequence is brig, trouble, captain's mast.
Yeah.
If I don't show up for class the next day, okay.
Yeah.
But you have to show up. Like
Yeah.
you have to wake up hungover. You have to wake
Right.
up
Yeah.
not wanting to. And so if
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
you've got through those 4 years or whatever it takes, that tells me a lot about a person now.
Yeah.
And so when I look at somebody who's graduated college when I'm employing people and somebody who's in the military, that college holds a little bit of weight because of what you had to do, not because of why you took it.
I mean, I can follow that reasoning that, if you or I went to, let's say a big fun party school, South Carolina or something, I don't think I'd be very disciplined. But I went to the Citadel, so people think I'm disciplined. I went somewhere that made
was gonna say,
I
these
had to be
names.
up at 6 every day, and you had to.
You had to.
Yeah, or you get kicked out.
So military college, I didn't take that into effect when I was thinking about that, but for every other college, I feel like you better have some discipline. I guess the consequence there would be, your parents get upset with you, or
No, you eventually get kicked out.
You'll get
they'll
kicked
give
out.
They have punishments you have to do and restrictions, and then it escalates up to getting kicked out. They also have a thing now, which I think is good, which is, you have to maintain a certain standard of physical fitness your whole time there, or you
Wow.
don't graduate.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I like that.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
So anyway, your daughter, I would say if she wants to go into psychology, then I would try to go to the best psychology school.
Yes.
Not like, well, this is a school I like and it's got a psychology major. No, that's not good enough. Like, what are the top schools for psychology that I can get into and go there?
Yeah, that's where we're at. And to further the college conversation, it's AI. AI has made knowledge worth about zero.
Right.
Because it's all right here on the phone.
Yeah.
And so when I think about, if I need this formula for something,
Yeah.
I speak into the app, and boom, there it is. I don't have to call the source of knowledge, John, that we used to have a source.
Right.
You used to get paid for knowing things.
Those things, yeah.
Now it's here.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of folks, hey, I need the tax code for this. Hey, I need to figure out how much concrete I need for this.
Right.
It's all here. So when I think about the knowledge thing, I'm like,
Yeah.
like this is going to be interesting.
Yeah. That's interesting. I suppose in psychology, I mean, that's a field that is, there's a lot of room for interpretation.
Gray. I call that gray
You
area.
get a lot of experience by seeing different people. So it's not like being an engineer or something. Even I was talking to a lady the other day who is like the top nurse assistant for this guy who does knees and hips. That's all he does. He does hundreds and hundreds of them every year. And he does all of them with the robot. So, he's looking at the screen.
Yeah.
And the thing is in there, the camera, and he's just doing it, and the robot's actually doing the cutting and the sewing and all that.
Yeah.
and they're not far away from no surgeon. Because they'll see the knee and they'll say, okay, this is what has to happen, right? And they'll just make the decisions.
Yeah.
So, oh my gosh, isn't that crazy?
Right? Would you be comfortable with that? A hip replacement?
Eventually, because what'll happen is they'll say, statistically, you're safer with the robot.
A human variable.
Than a guy who cuts off the wrong leg.
Yeah.
That happens sometime, right? I mean, we don't want that to happen.
Or he's shaking too much now.
Maybe you have too many gin and tonics. I don't know. But the school, now, how far away is she looking?
Far away is distance?
Yeah.
She's really open, but I think we've applied for early decision and regular decision. I think we already hit all the deadlines. So everything that she's looked at is within 5 hours.
Okay,
6
that's
hours.
good. I was just going to say, I mean, it is another consideration if the best school was, let's say, in Portland or something. That's just so far away. You know, you really end up with this big divide with your child that you don't see them that often. And if they're within 5 hours, they can come home for the weekend, or you can go,
For her, the further, the better. And
you're in negotiation, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm, there's got to be, I think, an hour and a half, 2 hours is a good, I can hurry up and get there.
Furman's got psychology.
Furman does it. Right in the backyard. But anyway, that was a tangent.
That's very cool. Yeah, it's fun to talk about that kind of stuff. I offered, this was, let's see, how long ago was it? It was roughly 20 years ago when my kids were going to college, or the first one was. I offered all three of them. I said, I'll take the money that your school would cost, roughly. Okay, it's a lot of money, right? A couple $100,000 or $300,000, whatever, to go to school there, and we will create together the dad plan.
Love it. Yeah, love it.
Yeah, there'll be no 4-year college. We're going to say, what is it you'd like to learn over the next 4 years? Do you want to learn how to surf? Do you want to learn how to speak another language? Do you want to learn how to cook? Do you want to learn anything about selling or business, entrepreneurism, whatever it is? We'll find the spot to go.
You offered.
Oh, yeah.
20 years ago, you offered this.
Oh, yeah. I said, we will create this thing where, like I said, they said, well, what about having a good time at college? I'm like, how about first semester, we send them to Alabama for 1 semester, for the football season. Just don't even go to class.
That's a great idea.
Just party, drink all day, hit the bong. I don't care what you do. Go have a good time, right? But don't think that's for 4 years we're going to do that. Let's learn something while we're out there.
Who took it?
No, well, my daughter kind of took it. She said, I want a little of both. She said, let me do 1 year before I start college of the dad plan.
Yeah.
And then I'll go to college afterwards. And I thought somewhere during that first year she would decide to take it for 4 years, but she didn't. She went to college afterwards.
Where did she go?
She went to SMU, which was she had a great experience. She got a degree in 3 years in math, really did great in school. But for her year she spent half the year in Salamanca, Spain, and lived there and just focused on Spanish. So she learned how to speak Spanish, and she had a ball with all those kids that were there to learn Spanish from all over the world. It's like that's the Mecca for learning Spanish. And then for the second half, she went on Outward Bound, and she was on a ship with 40 other Outward Bound people somewhere in South America.
Oh my gosh!
They lived on this ship for 3 months.
Well, how's Dad dealing with this? Because that sounds.
Hey, listen,
horrible.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
I think I want to push the kids out and challenge them early as much as possible.
Yeah.
Because when we're not around, I want to be ready.
John, that is what I define as success nowadays.
Yeah.
As a 40-year-old father, is I can leave this earth when I know she's self-sustainable and can take care of herself.
Exactly.
Like, that's what I want. But
exactly.
She's also going to Spain here in a couple of weeks. That's when you say that.
Good.
It's a high school trip.
Great.
I'm trying not to be apprehensive, but
well,
South America.
Yeah. Well, we to prepare, we did some self-defense training. We've had someone do that, did self-defense training. We did some driving training, evasive driving training.
Taught by Liam Nelson.
Yeah, and just try to teach her all along about head on a swivel,
Yeah.
being aware. But yeah, and now I don't ever worry about her because she got out there and did stuff. So I think it's great to get them to do more. And
But the dad plan.
I want to go on it. I'm kind of on it, really.
You are kind of on it. I like it. I think that it would be, as a young adult, you want to go doing your own thing.
Yeah.
And as parents, we try to mitigate that for them. And also, we steal their struggle. And I catch myself like wanting to fix this.
Yeah.
Let me handle this. I'll pay for that. I'll beat them up. I'll do this.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
let me drive you there. I'm like, it's hard, but it's something. Go to Spain.
Yeah.
Go to college 10 hours away. Go. And I
Yeah.
think that'll shape her better and get her more prepared for life.
Yeah. So my phrase I use, and again, I'm not putting myself up as parent of the year, but I think I might have learned this from sales, but I'll say, listen, I know you've got an important decision to make coming up, and I wonder, do you want me to give you just some ideas for you to consider
Yeah.
and decide what you want? They're like, okay, I'll listen, But if I say, listen, John, here's what I think you ought to do, they're like, shut you down.
That's absolutely right. So
Yeah.
you went from parenting to actual leadership mode.
Yeah.
And I love that. If you come down parenting, I just feel like it's not as receptive. Do you want to know what I would do in that situation?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think that's the Socratic method also?
Right.
Asking questions?
Absolutely.
I'd love to put my foot down a lot and say, you're not doing that. They got these dumbass ideas sometimes, and you got to stop them somehow.
Sometimes, yeah, that's true. So we got stuck there on college for a second, but you
Yeah.
skipped college and you went into the Navy and you thought that was your best option. You learned something about avionics, which is electrical stuff for aviation stuff, right?
Specifically radar jamming.
Okay.
Yeah.
Radar jamming. That's to keep the ship from getting hit with something.
Is for an F-18 that's in a fight or getting shot at, and he needs to throw off some chaff and flare, some heat,
Yeah.
so that the missile or gunfire will hit that.
Okay.
Those are the systems that I worked on.
So you were in the Navy how long?
5 years.
5 years, and you got out and you started working for a company that had something to do with what you learned in the Navy, right?
No, absolutely not.
No,
And
that was in my mind. That made such good sense.
well, here's what happened. I was Sailor of the Year on the Dwight D. Eisenhower, and
How do you get to be the Sailor of the Year? What'd you do?
Well, there's a series of boards that you would go on. You would go and answer questions about history or chain of command, things like that. Some opinion-based questions that you have a high evaluation constantly, and there's the politics in it of folks have got to like you. You got to look good. You got to look the part. Have the haircut every week. Have your ironed uniform, boots shined, and I did that. I wasn't the smartest, and I'm still not the smartest, and the same thing with the business. And I just tell folks, it's just I'm so far from being the most highly educated business person. It's just that I'm dumb enough to keep persevering.
Yeah. Well, you're certainly not dumb, but I think it's I call it being smart enough to stay focused on the important metrics in your business. Versus like getting all spread out and trying to do too much. It's like we need to make sure everyone does this. Everyone's got to make 5 calls a day. Everyone's got to follow, whatever it is we're supposed to do.
Managing the metrics.
Yeah.
But I think that's because my mind is on Mount Everest, not the hike.
Right.
And if I knew what it took to be in business, I don't think I'd be in business. I don't think I would have started a business. I'd have been a high-paid salesperson somewhere.
That's not a bad idea.
Hey.
There's been times in my life as an entrepreneur, I swear, I'm like, I wonder if I could still go to work for the post office.
You still think that?
Yeah, I mean, not,
You're a
not
door
today,
greeter?
and fortunately not today, but not too long ago, I'm like, because you have to, sometimes you have to, like, borrow money for payroll, and, and it just
The
like,
things that you never thought of. And if
Yeah.
I knew what it took to climb Mount Everest, I never would have tried to hike it.
Right.
And that's where I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, I just need to hire the smart people
Yeah.
that went to college.
Yeah. Well, you have a strong constitution, so it takes that to keep trudging along.
Yeah, and with all that said, I know why I'm in business now.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't do it over. I mean, maybe, but I know why, and it's because not many people can weather that stress that it takes to make payroll, deal with the headaches that happen every day. And there's always a wrecked truck, somebody with a ticket, somebody's sick, there's always an issue. And there's a select few that are able to deal with that and also have that responsibility of many families on your shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel very blessed to be able to do that, and I feel like this was my purpose.
And so tell us exactly what the business does.
So Fabtech Solutions was created about 10 years ago, and we sell and service metal fabricating machinery.
Okay.
So we are a distributor. We are business to business, and we sell equipment that will bend and form and cut metal.
Okay.
Manufacturers, fabricators.
Okay.
So you think of anything that's metal, there's a machine that makes it.
Yeah.
We sell and service it.
Okay. And to what geography?
We are becoming nationwide, and we are currently southeast. We're getting into the Midwest, but as we continue to grow, we're going to take the nation.
So you would have salespeople and service people in all those geographies.
So that's an interesting question because we've tried models of having service technicians in certain areas.
Right.
And I think our best model so far is having them home based here in South Carolina and being able to go from here. And why do you ask? Well, when I have somebody in Florida, somebody in Pennsylvania, somebody in Ohio, I'm not saying we won't do it.
Yeah.
It is super hard to build a culture. It is super hard to have your thumb on what they're doing. And I don't want to micromanage. I don't want my team to micromanage. And so it has been easier to grow from here on out. So if somebody wants to buy equipment in Texas, California, and we've flown all over the place. If they're willing to pay those rates, if
Yeah.
they're willing to buy that equipment,
Yeah.
it's because they trust us as a company. And I like this model.
So you'll send the rep out there to Dallas. They sell the thing, and then the person needs servicing or help. Do you fly someone out there for that?
We'll fly or we will drive. Some of our technicians,
They might see a few other people on the way, kind of thing.
we'll do that.
Yeah.
We'll try to make it worth it. But the technicians like having their certain tools. Personally,
Yeah.
I like to drive everywhere.
Interesting.
I'll drive. Yeah, there's.
They got their own stuff with them.
You give them a truck and they got their tools, and
Yeah.
that's sometimes an easier way to. It depends on what we're working on.
Yeah.
Some guys like to carry one toolbox, and others like to carry their entire truck.
Yeah.
And I how you work is, I don't want to mess with that.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Well, I think that's pretty interesting. I mean, I don't think anybody listening today, or very few people would say, I knew he was going to say everyone stays here in services like Dallas and St. Louis from here. It seems so far. But, at least for a while, it's easier than running this national grid organization. And what's Charlie doing in St.
Yeah.
Louis today? I mean, we had all of our people at our first company, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, salespeople,
Yeah.
service people. They're all in Greenville. So we recruited them, we trained them, we were with them every day,
Yeah.
and we had this great culture. And as soon as we said, let's open up an office in California. Trouble.
Yeah.
Just a revolving door of people coming and going and leaving, and it's like, and nobody wanted to go out there and see them. I mean, so
Tell me why.
tell me why we didn't want to go.
No, why was it a revolving door? Biggest reason.
The biggest reason is because they lost the culture of Greenville. We would send some of our best people out there, and it's almost like they disappeared.
For training or for?
No, to go out, just to move out there.
Oh.
To move out there
Okay.
and kind of service that area. And I'm sure some of them did a good job, but a lot of them left after a while because, I wasn't talking to them every day. I might not talk to them for 6 months. So they just kind of wandered off somewhere else or saw another opportunity or something. So they lost that because they were in a different spot.
They lost your leadership.
They lost the leadership, and I wasn't a very good leader to them, really, because I was kind of out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
And I would always say, I need to go out there and see those 4 people, or stay here with these 100. What should I do? And so we didn't go out there very much.
I'm glad you're telling me because I've been toying with this idea of incentivizing our good technicians to, hey, do you want to move to Texas? Would
Yeah.
you like, we'll pay for that. And I felt like that would be a, easier transition than to hire somebody down there.
Yeah.
And you telling me that kind of worries me now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, can you get anybody in these other big markets to be contractors?
You lose control of your reputation.
Okay.
And I'm not a big fan of that. And I think our mantra is service then sales. I make sure that our guys have tucked-in shirts, nice uniforms, and they're to our standards. And they show up clean, and they leave clean, and they speak well. And I feel like the industry has not been that.
Yeah.
So that is something that obviously I've thought about. I don't think it is feasible. I don't want to say never, but
Yeah.
I don't think it's feasible.
Did that kind of discipline or attention to detail and uniforms and all that come from the Navy, you think?
A lot of it did.
Yeah.
A lot of it did. And then I realized how, let me tell you something. Salespeople can be looked at 2 different ways. And one is very knowledgeable, or I like this guy. And I have sold, or people have bought from me, let me tell you that because that's different. People have bought from me because they trusted that I would handle their solution, not because I knew about all this stuff. No, I didn't have the knowledge. So I think you have to look the part before you know the stuff. And if I look good,
Yeah.
if I carry myself well and speak nice, I feel like you would trust me. But if I came in here sloppy
Yeah.
and still had the knowledge, you might question
It doesn't help.
subconsciously.
It
You might
doesn't
question.
help. It doesn't help. It doesn't help. And I'm not a good example because I think I'm a lazy dresser, but I know the difference, and I can tell you some stories. One time, we had a plumber come to our house, and this guy looked like one of your guys, shirt tucked in, shoulders back, looked clean.
Got it.
And he put the footy
Socks on
socks
there?
on,
Yeah.
and he said, "I don't want to." I was like, "Holy cow!"
Love this guy.
Best plumber I've ever seen. And guess what? I don't even know what the hell he did.
Didn't care.
I just feel like that was the guy. So that's who we use now. He's the same people, and it's just that presentation. And another time, a guy was selling me. We had mold in the basement, like in the crawl space,
Got
like
it.
this horrible looking. I could even see it. And I asked my wife. I said, "Call whoever and get them to come over here. Let's take a look." And so when I got home from work, this gentleman was sitting in my living room. I mean, he was a gentleman. He had like nice pants and shoes on. He had a blazer and a little tie
Jordan
on.
Peterson looking.
Yeah, I was like, what is he doing here? Who is this man? She goes, this is Mr. So-and-so. He's here to talk about the basement. And I said, okay, Mr. So-and-so, nice to meet you. Let's go on down to the, and he's like, well, just hold on a minute, John, because I'd like to learn some more about you and about the house before we go down there. So he slowed me down.
Okay.
And we just had a nice talk. We might even had a little glass of tea or something, But it just made me feel like this guy, first of all, the way he dressed as a mold removal guy, right? And that he took it so seriously. And so when it was all over, when they'd gone, he had a guy with him who was actually going to look around down there. When it was all over and he gave me a proposal, it was just like, for this amount of money, would make it all go away. I'm like, done. I trusted him.
Trusted him.
Yeah, but what if he just said, that I'm going to go down there right now, take a look, what? I mean, he part of it was his dress. To your point, the way he dressed and looked, and I demand that with my salespeople. I just want them to look crisp, not necessarily dressing better than the prospect, but just that they would look good,
clean. And I think you've asked me this before, and you said, "What do you look for in salespeople?"
Mm-hmm.
It's not technical knowledge; it's behavior and attitude.
right?
And then we'll figure out the technical knowledge.
Right.
I want you to show up right. I want you to do what you're supposed to.
Right.
This we can teach you.
Right. You're right. All right. So you started this business and you decided to go to sales training. And that's where we met under the great Walker McKay,
Walker
our
McKay,
leader.
the legend,
So
huh?
how did you find that class?
How did I find that class? That's a good question. I thought they were very professional. I felt like, personally, I was nowhere near. I had the imposter syndrome, right? I was in a group full of salespeople who were doing.
No. How did you physically find it? How did you find
Oh.
it? Yeah.
Oh, how did I physically find it? I was recommended by somebody who took
Okay.
that class and said, "Hey, you should probably do this."
So Walker was pushing them for referrals and got your name.
Yeah, and I think it was even deeper than that. I think Walker's somebody that worked with Walker knew somebody that I knew, and
Okay.
hey, you need to do this.
Yeah.
And the franchise has a big name.
Yeah. So, yeah, you went to that sales class, and that was a really good one. I'm so glad I went to it 10 years ago. I learned a lot about sales. And one good thing about going to a class in whatever you're working on is you meet other like-minded people.
John, I think that's even more important.
Yeah.
And I've got my technicians that want to go to service training and at the factories and whatnot. And I'm like, these guys know everything. They know more about than the factory does.
Yeah.
But they need to have a relationship with the factory, and they need to be able to get somebody on the phone. And
Yeah.
if they know who you are,
Yeah.
it's relationship.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so we met, John and I became friends, and then Patrick Garner, we both became good friends with Patrick. Heck, there was a lot of people that we met in that class, but it's just such a good example when people are sitting around, maybe not super happy, join a club, join a nonprofit, go to a class, do something that gets you out around people, like-minded people.
The camaraderie came from all of us trying to solve the same problem.
Right.
I think
How
about
can
that.
we sell more?
How can we sell more? We all have the same problems,
Right, right.
Gatekeepers and all that. And
Yeah.
I just think about the relationships meant more to me than the actual training did, because I can call any of them and they probably understood. Hey, John, what would you do in this situation?
Yeah.
And it's invaluable to be able to, contact everybody who's gone through the same thing.
Yeah, it is great. Okay, so we went to that class, and since then your business has gotten a lot better. I mean, how many, because you were very small then when we started, I think.
I started that class, and then I started my business. What that did was that class showed me I didn't get to see my peers when I was in my industry.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't speak to competitors.
Yeah.
And when I got in front of other salespeople, oh, you guys deal with this too, and oh, you own this, and well, how did you do that? And then it made me believe that I was capable of these things. And so I was inspired by every individual that was in there that I got to know, and that things were possible. Oh, you're selling that much? Wow, there's 10,000 fridges getting pumped out of Electrolux every week? That's crazy. Just all these things that you're in your box and you don't get to see. And so when I was able to see this, I was able to be inspired enough to say, you know what? I could definitely make this work. Started the business.
Yeah. And the business has gotten a lot bigger since then. How many people do you have?
I think we're only at 7 right now.
7 people, so that's great. 'Cause when we started working together, there wasn't even a business, right?
It was an idea.
Yeah.
It was a what do they call that? An entrepreneurial hiccup or an entrepreneurial. I know there's a term for it.
We have so many.
E-Myth talks about it.
Yeah, we have a lot of. So there's a couple of things you've done also, and I don't know exactly when they started, but you got into, after the Navy, competitive bodybuilding.
Yeah.
Was that right after the Navy?
No. It was actually when I started my business. The day I started my business, the very day I joined the gym again, right? And it became part of my routine.
Uh-huh.
And then I just got really good at, growing muscle.
Yeah.
And then got into the competitions because I seen folks doing that. And of course, I can do that too. And I realized, well, it was a challenge, right? It was like, all right, well, you got to do this, this, and this. You can't do it. Oh, yeah? Watch me, And so I got good at that because that took a lot of discipline, and I enjoyed that challenge. And, to be honest with you, I don't even like bodybuilders. You know what I mean? I love the structure that it gives me. I'm not hanging out with bodybuilders. I enjoy, or I'm very much, I'm impressed, and it, hats off to you if you do bodybuilding. Very much. I know what it takes. But it gives me the structure I need to lead a better life, whether it's being a better father, business person, even my spiritual world. But it gives me that discipline. And if I don't have that discipline, I'm sleeping in, I'm drinking, I'm doing all these things I'm not supposed to.
Yeah.
That's really...
Well, I agree with you. I think, not that I'm a bodybuilder, but sports in general or that kind of thing, if you learn that if I do these things, this is what's going to happen eventually.
Yeah.
And you're able to do your bodybuilding and win competitions like you have, and then subsequently influence other people that are trying to do the same thing. You apply that same lesson to your business, right?
Absolutely.
If I make these calls,
Yes.
this many a day,
Yes.
and keep doing my sales training and keep making my product better,
Yes.
this is going to happen.
Everything's consistent.
Yeah.
I know that if I lift this weights, I eat this food, I do this, I sleep right, that this will happen. I know if I make these calls, I make my visits, this will happen.
Right. And are you still on like strictly a pound a day, a pound of burger a day?
Ground beef, or ground deer, rather.
Ground deer?
Right now, I'm probably around 2,600 calories. I can get real technical about it, but I'm eating 6 ounces of cod, 6 ounces of ground beef, 6 ounces of ground turkey. My carbs are usually sweet potatoes and quinoa. I like quinoa. My breakfast is eggs and tortilla shells, and that's kind of my cheat thing. But
The tortilla shell?
the little tortillas, 11 grams of carbs, and so
Yeah.
gets me going.
Well, but again, one of the things we talked about before is just that you're so consistent with it that that's only like 7 foods there, right? That's what I'm going to eat. Some combination of these that equals about 2,500 calories.
John, I have become obsessed with data.
Yeah.
And when you don't improve on what you don't measure, right? So I measure everything. And whether I'm drinking water or I'm measuring my food, or even when I have my tequila, I put it on my scale and have 2 ounces, and that's all I have.
You
promise
weigh
you.
your tequila?
I do. 2 ounces. 2 ounces of tequila, 2 ounces of pomegranate juice, and 2 ounces of water.
Well, you know what?
There you go, folks.
If you're drinking alcohol, without weighing it, you might have a little heavy pour. You're like, that's about 2.
The Martha Stewart pour?
Yeah.
The vodka pour?
I've done that before.
But the obsession on the data has only gotten me better, and it's just, we don't improve on what we don't measure. And so metrics in my business, I'm obsessed with measuring all these KPIs, and it only improves. Let me tell you something I'm real proud of. I seen this a couple weeks ago. I'm doing my reports for last year. Percentage-wise, we were within 2% of our revenue from last year. I didn't hire anybody. I didn't hire anybody more. I didn't take any more vendors. We didn't do anything other than improve on our processes and our systems. Okay, so we made more calls. We did more marketing. We did more things. We were within 2% of our gross revenue. We improved EBITDA double.
Nice.
Doubled EBITDA by just doing that.
Nice.
And I'm real proud of that, and I just feel like we're getting more out of less because of systems and processes. So I'm doing that, and we're going to go on a big recruitment thing here this year because we've dialed in our phone plan, as I call it. So we just start adding phones to the phone plan. Anyway, the bodybuilding is the data. It's all about data in, data out.
Man.
You can't do it yet?
No.
John's going to do a show with me one of these days. He's going to get into Speedo and, look at that. There's a 6-pack in there.
Yeah, it's in there. Let's don't talk about it. But it's gonna get better.
I'm sorry. Okay.
So another thing you've done in terms of building your life the way you want to is you decided you weren't going to have a traditional let's call it a dwelling, right?
Dwelling.
A dwelling. You weren't going to like live out in
box full of memories.
Simpsonville, subdivision
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
And you went out to the kind of the country, not too far away, and bought, 50 acres?
52 acres.
52 acres. And it's only 10 minutes from downtown.
Yeah.
Right? Because I went out
15,
there.
20, yeah.
Yeah. So 52 acres, and you can hunt on that land.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Is there a pond?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. There's a creek though.
Yeah, but you built and have become quite famous for building a wonderful barn dominium, right?
Yeah, it's gotten some traction.
And so if somebody wanted to follow you about the barn dominium, where would they go? Is it Instagram?
Instagram and TikTok. Facebook seems to be the big.
Facebook.
Yeah, even Facebook. I woke up one day and there's 1 million new followers or whatever, and I'm like, this is nuts. People are. I just decided to do a 60-second video on what I was doing, and people tend to like that. They want to.
So is it John McDonald?
John McDonald Jr. 99.
John McDonald Jr. 99. Yeah, it's really cool, and the way you do it is very very entertaining. But he documented the whole barn dominium build from beginning to now, and it's been awesome. And I guess I was there. I don't know how many months ago I came to see it.
8, 9, 10 months ago. Yeah.
But you also, so he's got a barn dominium, which has got his dwelling in it. He's got a place for his daughter when she's there, when she's home from college or whatever. He's got his office downstairs.
Podcast room.
He's got a gym.
Full gym.
And then a little warehouse connected for the trucks and the business stuff, right?
Yeah, we've got 4,500 square foot of warehousing.
Yeah.
And we've got 3,000 square foot of 2 studio apartments, one for me, one for Victoria.
Yeah.
And then I've got the full gym and the podcast room where you're going to be one of my first guests, actually, once we get that back ramped up.
I love it. I want to be first. You want
to be first?
Yeah, not you're thinking about Patrick, aren't you?
There's a list. I was going to, I was thinking Trump and you, and there's just kind of stuck between you two.
I'll go right after Trump.
Okay.
So tell us more about the barn dominium.
The barn dominium was really about being outside the box thinking.
Yeah.
And what that did was give me the freedom that I really struggled with growing my business and having what I want and what I think me and my daughter deserve. And so we had 10 acres. A subdivision was moving in. We sold it. We had to sell it. We loved the 10 acres.
That was the before
original
place.
Yep,
yeah.
the McDonald Hunt Lodge. We moved into one of my rental houses for a couple of years. I said, no big deal. We'll find something else. Can I go buy, the $1 million house? I'm like, yeah, we can. But then I needed a building for my business.
Yeah.
And so it was like, I can't do both.
Yeah.
And so the barn dominium gave me both.
Yeah.
And so I built a beautiful place for my daughter and myself to live that I was able to house my gym and do all these things and hunt and, and grow the business. So it was the best decision that I could have done at the time, right? And so if you got a business and you're trying to grow it and you're trying to have fun too, like everything's very efficient. Everything's very efficient.
And how did you come up with that decision?
Honestly, it was, how do I do both? And then I was like, well, if I can only have, a building in my house here, and I'm like, wait a second, as you're scrolling and you see these buildings, and then, the other question is, why did I build it myself with help, right? And that's kind of a crazy question, but there's people who build buildings, there's contractors, right? And try to get a hold of them and come out and quote, and I couldn't even get quotes. So I'm very impatient. I'm an eternal optimist. We'll figure this thing out. We got Everest. We'll figure out how to get there somehow. And that's where I started. We're almost done. I got to put the wraparound porch on, but I've got 5 machines in there now. I'm training in there. I've been living in there for a while, and it's paid for too. So paying as I go, that's really cool. And being able to have a building where I know a lot of my competitors have big leases and industrial parks. I don't have that. So it's become a win-win. And
I mean, it's amazing. I mean, I think about, traditional, what we've morphed into as society. You would have your house.
Yeah.
You'd have a house for Victoria, right? You'd
the
help her get a
minivan
house
and
or something.
Yeah.
You'd have your hunt club,
Right.
You'd have your gym you go to.
Yep.
You'd have a studio you go to for the podcast.
Yep.
And a place for your business.
And
that's 6 places.
And all your toys. You have a storage unit.
Right. 7 places. That's 7 places. And I know people who have all those things.
John, I know a lot of people that do. And I was like, I don't know how you do that.
It's just a pain in the ass going around to all of them anyway.
How much time do you waste driving to the gym, driving to the storage unit, driving to the business?
Right.
And I've really condensed it. I do have to get out after a few days,
Yeah.
After hitting the gym here, I got to go out somewhere else and see people, right? But incredible efficiency where I could wake up and go right to work, go to the gym, go out to the business. I love it. I'm so much more efficient.
That's good. And so how is that morphing into, because, I mean, how many followers do you have now following this process?
I think Facebook, you're probably somewhere around 80,000. TikTok, we're probably around 90,000. Instagram, we're around 20,000. It's not crazy, but look, they're paying me, to get on there and do these things. And what I've learned is that it's been a season of my life, and people jumped on. I just hope that they want to follow me for the rest of my journey, because building a barndominium is not who I am. I'm a business owner. I'm a bodybuilder. I'm a father. I'm a Christian. I'm these things. And people have latched onto this to a point of every day I get a phone call from somebody random across the country. Hey, where did you get those trusses? Or I'm grinding up coffee at the local grocery store. Hey, you know what you could do with that toilet? You can move it. I'm sorry, I didn't know who you. But it is very. It feels really good that I'm able to inspire folks to try and live outside the box. And not a lot of folks can make that decision. Of like, all right, one, I've been fortunate enough to be able to build this cash, and two. A lot of guys have a family that they can't go, just go start building something and start living in it, throw a mattress down on the concrete and start living. I've been blessed enough to be able to do that. And, it's inspiring folks. So if I can help them, that's what I thought. I was like, there's a lot of frustrations, let me turn on the camera and show folks how I did this. And here we are.
Right. Well, it's magical and it's hard to explain. I encourage people to go check it out. Go to one of those social media platforms, John McDonald Jr., right? John McDonald
Jr., 99.
99.
Yeah, you'll find me.
All right. Well, is there anything, we're at the end here, is there anything that you want to promote? Anything you want to?
I would promote my my social media. I would just say that's probably the best thing I could promote right now. There's a lot of goals and things I'm trying to do. I'm going to grow this business, and I'm going to do cool things. Me and my daughter do a lot of cool things, and John and I actually do a lot of cool things. And I like to inspire folks. And at this point in my life, I feel like what I'm trying to put out on social media is a lot to help folks. A little bit to entertain, but a lot to help folks. So if folks want to follow me there, they can see what I'm doing in my life.
Well, that's great, because I love the whole story from where you started and decisions you've made along the way to get to where you are. I think the barndominium kind of represents kind of how you think, right? That you're thinking, what can I make happen here? I don't have to do it the old-fashioned way. I'm going to do it the John McDonald way.
John, when you say it and when people look at it that way, I think to myself, like, this is the most efficient way we should do this. And then I think to myself, so why are my friends buying the house in the cul-de-sac with a minivan and 2.5 kids? And this is society. This is what they think they should do, what their parents told them to do, what all these things. And it's ego, it's pride, it's a lot of things where people try to fit in this box. And I would just, I would tell folks to think outside the box, and it's okay to be a little different.
Well, I think we both got that covered.
I think we did.
Right.